finished. What did it finish? Oh, it finished excitingly at 41-34 to the Highlanders. Oh, dearie me. This is brought to you by DrivingMaul. Hi, I'm Paul, the guy behind DrivingMaul, a podcast, a YouTube channel, a Twitter account, and a website. And thank you so much, everybody, for reading the website. I have had record day views for the last 2 days running. It has been something wonderful. I've blown my mind. It's all been very cool. Thank you guys for reading. And joining me for this post-match review, thinking, why is he going so crazy, is the one, the only Highland supporter, Steve, the man who is better known as Cornflakes Crib.
Hello. Thanks for having me again. No, I understand the excitement, and it's good to have record days. It's nice to get better and go up the ranks. Well done.
It is. So yes, all very good. Christian says I have to lose my voice. No, I have not lost my voice. No, it's all here. Hopefully you can hear me. Otherwise, this is a total waste of time. But then again,
I don't know how Tony Johnson has a voice, to be honest with you, after that, though.
Oh, he was. Yes, he was getting very croaky and very excited, wasn't he?
I feel his pain. I feel his pain.
But yes, I mean, in a game that had, what was it? 5 tries for the Highlanders and 4 for the Blues. No try bonus points, which is kind of strange for those of us who watch the Northern Hemisphere. But obviously, moving away from 4 tries leaving a bonus point, you have to score more tries than the 3 more tries than the opposition, and that just didn't happen tonight. I think let's just do a couple of overall things first. First off, the quality of this game was fantastic. There wasn't many drop balls and all that kind of stuff that we saw last weekend. I think I had it in my notes here that the first Highlanders scrum was after 50 minutes. That's pretty impressive.
Yep, it was a pretty outstanding overall game. It's like I put out a tweet earlier saying, is this the first game of this season or is it the 10th game of this season? Because they were playing just ridiculously well. Both sides were, to be fair. Few mistakes, high pace, high skilled. It's just not what you're normally used to seeing at the start of a season, but it was magnificent to watch. And both teams had many good things about them. And you got to say, if I was Australian, South Africa, Argentinian, or Japanese, I would probably be chattering on the old fingernails by now after watching that one.
And we hear the Kiwi arrogance straight from the first game of the season. So nothing to disappoint the fans from other countries there. Yes, he's got it in early. He's already saying that you guys should be worried. And never mind. Anyway, professional procrastinator, Tough Luck Blues. As a neutral, I really enjoy this one, or the last few minutes. It's a shame he doesn't live down south. Well, hey, sorry, I enjoyed this one from start to finish. I'm wearing a Blues jersey, but yeah, no, the quality of the rugby was very good. First up, in the first 5 minutes, neither side could look after the pill. It turned over a couple of times, and I thought, okay, here we go. But after that, it really did settle down very well. And we saw the kind of Highlanders went and kicked actually a penalty early on, which was totally against how the rest of the play, how they sort of both teams really played for the rest of the game. They both all went for the corners, very kind of Hurricanes-esque.
Yeah, it's kind of like they played a bit like a test match you sort of would see, just settle it down, points on the board, start off nicely, get off to an early lead, if you call it that, and just you settle things down, because it was pretty high pace. It was all over the shop, and the intent was right there from the start. But not surprised. I'm probably surprised they didn't kick a bit more, especially, in the latter parts. You saw they both did at the end, but it was definitely tries was the order of the day. And it seems to be a trend of how especially Southern Hemisphere rugby is going. It's all about, scoring tries. Penalties are just forgotten about almost. It's almost an afterthought when you're trying to just break a deadlock of 7-pointers.
Yes, and that's where the clock sort of came in to the equation after about 65 minutes, where the Blues went, okay, we're 7 points behind. There's about 50 minutes left. We're going to have to score twice anyway, so we might as well take the easy 3 now, so that when we have to score the try later on, we can win the game. Unfortunately, they gave up a kickable penalty, and we saw the Highlanders kick for the post again and stretch it out to 7. But it was, I think that to me was a classic thing of time pressure dictating how the flow of the game changed.
Yeah, it definitely was. Yeah, the clock was what it was all about. It's a risk, isn't it? It's a risk you take. You get an opportunity, a penalty like that. It's a risk to take the 3 when you could get 7. It's a risk to try for the 7 or 5 when you could take 3. It's all dictated by the clock, especially in that game. If it was 15 minutes earlier, they probably would have gone for the corner. And the team's both playing so well on the backs as well. It's like you can kind of understand why. And the forwards, to be fair, I thought players which I don't particularly like, James Parsons had an outstanding game, and I'm not his number 1 fan.
Yeah, James Parsons had a big game in the first half, and I think the lack of his the fact that he didn't come out and make the impact early in the second half, and then his replacements didn't make the same kind of impact, was one of the key things that changed this game around. The Andre Hicks on here says, I prefer taking 3 and giving it a go again. Yes, I agree, but that's not how the New Zealand sides play now. The Highlanders never, sorry, not the Highlanders, the Hurricanes nearly never kick posts, and the other teams are now going, well, if you're going to pick up 7s, we're going to have to follow the same style too, and it's coming through. Jack Darby, very high-paced game, which was great to watch. It was great to watch, and I think that's what really hurt the Blues towards the end there, was we saw a couple of players cramping up, Duffy, Collins, 2 players who had wonderful games in the backs there, both cramping up towards the end there. And I think definitely the pace of the game told in obviously what is an indoor dry conditions.
Yeah, it was. And they did really towards the end, it completely kind of fell apart a bit. The substitutes I thought were quite interesting in that matchup. I was surprised to see both teams go to them so early, especially for players that were playing quite key roles in the match at the time. But, you know, given the state of the season, first game, and when you saw probably 5-10 minutes after that, there was a lot of players who had managed to stay on. They were cramping up a bit. So it's just the stage of the season. I'm interested to see if that's saying that the Blues, especially, are going to continue on with the way that they play this season out with that sort of strategy. But yeah, on that, I thought they played it very well. It worked pretty well, and I think the bench was a huge part of that result. Yeah,
it's the bench and the yellow card. But let's actually talk about the first half first, really. We should. So after the Blues, forwards made a great break-up field. We had a bit of a panic ball. Sorry, that's actually after it. They finally got some front football. Lovely step by Gatland after the Sonny Ball gave him that front football to go over. And Gatland was one of these players that people have been wanting to talk about, wanting to see. And I think he stood up tonight with his try and also with his overall game management.
Yeah, I think kicking overall the whole match was on a top class. But I mean, number 10 jumper for the Blues, it was a big talking point. We talked about it. Everyone's talking about it. Who's going to take the 10? You know, Carlos Spence was being thrown about. Really, it's got to be thrown away now. That was a pretty good performance from Gatland. I think he really showed up any doubters of him. He was strong when he took the line on. And I think given the way that the Blues stack up inside and outside him, the likes of Pulu inside him, the Sonny Bills, Moalas, all those guys outside him, really does give him a bit more space, a bit more time than he probably would have if he didn't have those good guys outside him that take a little bit more of the pressure off him. So I think he took advantage of that. Faded as the game went on. I think he did it enough later on in the game, which, you know, whether the Highlanders, I think, adapted to the game probably a bit better than the Blues did throughout, but definitely a great game for Gatland and probably shut a few people up, which is good to see. So good on him.
Yeah, he did. And you're talking about Pulu inside him. I think Pulu had a bit of a mixed game. Good when he had the front football, but not necessarily good under pressure. Because immediately after that, there was a tap over, a little kick over. Sonny Bill Williams taps it back into Pulu's hands. Pulu can see that the Highlanders defence are streaming through, and rather than just holding onto the ball and taking contact, he throws a risky pass, and the Blues end up giving a penalty, kicks the corner, and Thompson goes over on a lovely line that he picks through. We all know Aaron Smith can pick out those players, and he did that all game, didn't he? Put some great passes to pick up the guys running those lines.
Yeah, definitely a point from that match was Aaron Smith. Fantastic, just utterly amazing. I've never doubted the fact that he's the world's best scrum half, period. He's good form, bad form, but I mean, do you put Pulu's, average sort of game? I agree, he was up and down all over the place, but like the example you just mentioned there, he was he's that sort of player, isn't he? He's going to do the wonderful and he's going to do the terrible. He's that eccentric, I guess, kind of style of play. So you got to expect that from him. But I think he was just massively, comprehensively outplayed by Aaron Smith throughout that game. And that set the tone. I mean, Aaron Smith's passing was so crisp. His kicking was just out of this world. And that is single-handedly what set the Highlanders up to stay in the game, because they were struggling at times, but it did set them territorial-wise by far their biggest asset.
And then we had, after that wonderful try by Thompson, we had what was an amazing move by Sonny Bill, Duffy, Rico, back to Duffy again, down the 5 metre, in the 5 metre channel, and Duffy strolls over. New Zealand seems to be the only country in the world that has that rotating of players through that 5 metre channel where you can just pass. You think there's no room. They're not going anywhere. And suddenly they break through and it's a try. And the timing, the positioning, the strength of the players, that was just wonderful play.
Yeah, so it's the Blues. It's what the Blues' real strength is. So it's back three guys. This is Sonny Bills. They're Ioanis. Both Ioanis, I thought, played quite well. Another point for Akira. But just the ability to keep the ball alive, and both teams did it, but the Blues definitely in the first half. I think that's what their big strength was in their opening half of the game, was that they played to what they're good at. They played where their strengths are. Sonny Bill seen a lot of ball. He made a lot of space. And just giving those guys that can create the spaces is what really did it for them. But yeah, those guys are so dangerous. Collins, he's almost a little bit of a Ben Smith, isn't he, as well, at fullback for the Blues. So they've got a good little back line. They just seem to tidy things up a bit, and I think they could definitely upset a few teams this season as well.
But this was the right. You mentioned Akira Ioane there. This was exactly his kind of game. Dry. Yeah. Against in a pack that's not going backwards, so it's not a slogfest. It's about his running. It's not in wet play. And this, if Akira Ioane can't show his skills in this game, then really he needs to find another job. It's when we get a wet game, when he's having to slog it out with players, when he's having to do more of the hard graft. That's where we'll see whether he has got the right attitude or not, whether his attitude's improved over the holidays. Because so far. This is his perfect kind of game. We expect him to step up, and he got that try by running over Aaron Smith just before half time. But in between that, Thompson got his second try with an absolute superb late run from behind the scrum. You've got Aaron Smith running a fake wraparound, pulling the defenders out of the way, and he just ran through a gaping hole, untouched, unopposed to go to put a lovely ball down.
Yeah, it's what we thought about at the start of the season, wasn't it? With the no more Tony Brown, whether Aaron Major was going to kick that unique sort of play with the Highlanders team. I think that struck the nail right on the head as to what we're going to see from Aaron Major. More of that sort of play, that creativity through the team. You know that Aaron Smith's a key man. He is the ringleader of that back line. He's always going to command the attention. But Rob Thompson, I mean, Malachi, who? I don't know who you're talking about anymore. This guy is he's been good for seasons, but I think this year he's going to have that spotlight on him. That hole's there, and much like we talk about other players, he's got to take that, and he's definitely good enough. Oh, he is sensational if he gets the room and the space. We've seen here today, plenty of speed, and just executes fantastically. I think he was definitely one of my standout players in the Highlanders jumper tonight.
Well, him, and one of the things we said beforehand was that the one area the Blues have the upper hand on is the centres, and Thompson plus I'm going to go Walden. That's it. I was going to say Wilson. Walden. It's not. Yep. Walden. The two of them had a great game, and you'd say two Super Rugby veterans, not two guys who, especially one of them who's fresh into the jersey really, and another relatively unknown player. So yeah, I think they had great games.
But you got to think about those centre pairings for the Highlanders, is that they've been in that setup for a few seasons now. Like Thompson and Ty Walden have been there for 3 seasons. I could be wrong, either way, 1 or 2, but they've been there for a while. They know the process. They are not experienced, but they're definitely not fresh out of club rugby or anything like that, or ITM or MP, Mitre 10 Cup. Get that right. So these guys know what it's about. They're experienced enough to know it, and I think they are put up against an All Black midfield partnership, and they definitely did themselves no ill fate for their futures, that's for sure.
Absolutely. Before the season started, I thought it would be Barracuda and Fadders. Barracuda's obviously injured. Fadders got to go on the bench. So yeah, no, these guys have stood up and proved me definitely wrong. The one thing about that first half, I mean, in the first half, the Blues were getting front football, and they're getting front football because, let's be honest, the Highlanders' defence wasn't great. They only made 77% of their tackles throughout the game. And I think they missed something in the region of 11 or 14 tackles during that first half. The tackling really wasn't good enough, was it?
No, but I mean, you've got to make it what opportunities you get. And that first half was just open slather for anyone who wanted to take a chance had it there on a platter to take it as well. So, it was a try-fest. The game definitely, I think, tightened up in the second half. So there was a contrasting fact. I think the Blues didn't get that front foot ball as much as they did in the first half. The Highlanders pack definitely improved. They started show a bit of dominance. They turned over a scrum, which I think was a huge point in the game. But, of course, yellow cards as well didn't help the Blues. Oh, yellow card. Don't get too excited about the cards. Didn't help them. But, definitely I think the Highlanders did adapt. I said it earlier, they did adapt to the game a lot better, and they changed what was happening and what they needed to do a lot better than the Blues did, who seemed to just keep going on that same train track. And did it cost them? I don't know. It's hard to say if that was a defining moment, but the Highlanders' ability to just mix things up a little and do the right things and take their chances was the big difference for me.
Yeah, I think the coaches, the Highlanders coaches, definitely had a better impact, more of an impact from at half time than the Blues did, and the Blues were not getting the same front football in the second half. Sure, the Highlanders still gave up probably around about 10 or so missed tackles, but this time those tackles are slowing things down so that someone else could make the tackle rather than giving the opportunity for the Blues to make more front football. The Highlanders also got more front football in that second half, and definitely that's where we saw the flow of it change. I mean, Smith took a quick tap penalty when the Highlanders were in good position to even things up straight 5 minutes into the half, and then Collins played another again down in that 5 metre channel. The ball gets kicked, it's loose. He picks it up, streaks down the 5 metre channel, puts Akira Ioane away. So again, as we're talking about those players, all dangerous if you give them broken field play. And we had all that, and then, as we say, 50 minutes was where the gone blank substitutions. That's what I'm looking for. Started to happen, and I must say, at this point, I thought that the Highlanders had done the wrong thing because they took off Dixon and Leonard Brown, and these are two players that that take off at 50 minutes, and at Leonard Brown. 11 tackles, and Dixon 10 tackles. So sure, they both missed a couple, but that was a series. They took off two of their top tackling players at that point, and yet we didn't seem to. The Blues couldn't take advantage of it.
Yeah, I think that's something the Highlanders have really focused on for previous years, probably like the last 4 or 5 years, is playing like we see internationally now as well. It's about 23 men. It's not about 15. It's not about 17. It's about the whole 23 being able to come on and just stay at their same level, if not improve. So that's what it's all about for the Highlanders, is having the faith in that bench. As you say, they come on, and the Blues couldn't really take advantage of that, and that's what it's all about. I thought it was surprising they took Sopawanga off, I think, at the 62nd minute or so, because I thought they'd just hammer the hell out of him. Every single opportunity they could have him to play a minute, he would be on there, but no, they gave the faith to Fletcher Smith, who I thought was pretty solid as well. Didn't really notice a drop in the Highlanders at all these no-name players. It's cliche Highlanders. It's just what they do. These guys who aren't good enough, don't make other teams. They just come here. They play to that style. They play to that culture of the team, and it just seems to do wonders for them. Key men make key decisions, and everyone else just pulls their weight. It's just what the Highlanders do, and they seem to have kept that same thing again with the reserves. They just hit the mark.
I think you nailed it on the head there with the key men make key decisions. Just want to give Coltman a quick shout out because he got 2 turnovers in his half hour that he was on the pitch, which was why we didn't miss Dixon going off. So, but it worked. That's right. Key men making key decisions. Whenever there's a turnover, you got Aaron Smith, and the first man who's on his shoulder is Ben Smith. As soon as that turnover happens, he's there, and it's those two deciding what happens, how the game goes, and it's key men making key decisions. We had one key man making some key decisions that really did not help the Blues at all, and that was Kiri Kiri. Did you love that segue? I thought it was brilliant. Anyway,
that was very good.
So just a couple of minutes after Dixon and Leonard Brown were off, he goes and hits a player a bit high, or hits Sopwanga a bit high, and picks up the yellow card. I get why it was yellow card. I think it was a bit of a soft one, though, personally.
Yeah, I've written the same thing down. I thought it was a bit harsh, but fair. It's the rules. You go near the head, you go near the neck, it's pretty much going to be yellow card. But what got me about him is like, okay, you made a mistake, all good, do your time, come back, learn, progress, move on from it. He was the same. He come out and he was pretty lucky not to get into a bit of strife when there's a bit of biffo near the end. He was right involved in that. He was still really, really aggressive, which it's good in a way, but you got to really be careful because, if you're down and off for the rest of the game, what good are you? You may have got a bit of an altercation, you may have got advance in it, but you got to really, really watch that as well. And it's going to be the season of that, isn't it? It's going to be more. I thought there was probably a couple of tackles in there that I sort of cringed when I went over, tipped them up sideways. I was like, oh no, don't ruin this match. It's so good. But we just escaped with one yellow card, which, yeah, it's going to happen. I could have seen at least 2 or possibly 3 in that game from other things that happened as well. So I'll take it.
I thought it was about right. As you say, he came out again, was aggressive. He gave up three penalties, which is the most apart from Franklin for the Highlanders, who gave up 4. So you've got to say that he's playing on the edge, and he's not playing it very well to give up three penalties and pick up the yellow card. He was the guy that gave up the key penalty at the end that allowed the Landers to stretch the lead back out to 7 points. How did he do that? He tackled a player off the ball. It wasn't even a clever penalty. It was a blatant one, grabbing a player who hasn't got the ball in front of the referee. It was just dumb after the kick had been charged down. Yes, he wasn't offside. He could grab the ball because it had been charged down, but you can't grab the player. And it was just he had a heat of the moment, made the wrong decision again. And you got to say that I think Kiri Kiri probably lost this game for the Blues with those 2 actions.
Yeah, it's young players. It's heat of the moment. It's tight. It's close. You got to make a decision. You got half a second to make it. Ball's dropping in front of you. What do you do? That defines, good players and great players, doesn't it? Where he's going to end up, who knows? But circumstances like that, fall on the ball, chase the ball. Follow the ball. Don't take the man. Wherever he is. It was a very messy part of the game too, and that could have easily just resulted straight away to a try of the Highlanders. So it's kind of like one of those professional fouls, isn't it? That where do you go? Well, where do you slide?
Yeah, and the Blues didn't handle that yellow card very well. They lost. They had the turnover scrum in front of their posts, which then
George Moala.
With George Moala on the scrum. Now, to be fair to George Moala, he was on the scrum. He peels off the scrum, gets into the defensive line, and suddenly Walden cuts back against him, and he realises, oh, I've stepped 2 steps. I've gone 2 strides too far out. I've left a gap. He's in. So it's a bit harsh on Moala there. I think yes, he was trying to do more than his normal role, and he got caught out. So that was one of the tries. Sonny Bill Williams then goes and throws a poor forward pass, and a clear one as well, which again hands over the ball. You're down to 14 men, and you're throwing long forward passes around, which give up possession. You can't be giving up possession when you're down to 14 men. And then we end up with this with the chip through. Pulu doesn't quite claim it. You've got Collins has gone out wide because obviously they're a player down, and he's scared of the gaps out there, and so it falls down, and Walden gets his second try. So that was where the Blues kind of lost it. Kiri Kiri going off, putting the Blues in 2 set-piece situations where they have to leave a gap somewhere, and the Highlanders made the most of it. And then at the end, he goes and gives up a penalty that allows the lead to be stretched out to 7 points again. Unfortunately, that was the big thing for me. Plus the fact that in that second half, the Blues weren't able to get the front foot ball they were in the first half.
Yeah, I'd agree with you on that too. And it's the Blues key men as that game wore on didn't seem to be at their same top level that the Highlanders kind of lifted to as well. You saw very little falter from Aaron Smith. Ben Smith made one mistake in that whole game. But like you say, Sonny Bill, really good in the first half, not getting that direct forward, straightforwardness from his pack, trying to do things too much, trying to force the issue a bit. The yellow card, obviously, it's not going to help any team. And yeah, I agree. If you're George Miller, it's hard for a man that plays in the back line to adapt to how you got to play on the side of a scrum. But it's well executed. You know, the Highlanders obviously identify that and say, that guy's going to come off. Is he good enough to commit to this play if we've got a man running straight through his corridor? So it's clever play. And like you said about before, key men, you know, Aaron Smith will be running that play. He'll be saying who's going to go where, and he'll identify that straight away. So, yeah, it kind of, they hit halftime and changed directions of two sides. I think the Blues didn't have their big guys stand up, especially in the back line. We saw less and less, especially Sonny Bill. I think he was really, really key for them. And when he kind of went off the boil, it did affect the whole team a bit as well.
True. And the just amusingly, so Andre says in the live chat, please talk for another 76 minutes so we don't have to watch the Aussie Snorathon on at the moment. I'm sorry, Andre, but we will not be going for another 76 minutes. We're probably another 5 or 10 minutes and then we're done.
So sorry about that. Haircut. Goodness me.
He also says, thought the Blues lost the plot a little in the second half. And yes, that's exactly what we just said, is they did lose the plot a little bit there. Josh says, multiple yellow cards in games is going to become the standard till players learn to adapt. Yes, I think they have learned to adapt.
For years.
Maybe, exactly. So, but the fact that we only had one guy go high, and I think Sopoaga was going down. Kiri should have probably been a bit lower, should have bent his legs a bit more, but he came up quick, didn't get to drop, and Sopoaga was coming down a bit. So I think he got a little bit unlucky, but I think they have adapted pretty well to that. But to show that this game is that there was also the luck of the bounce, could have made this easily a draw, was towards the end there, a little grubber through. If it stays in from a turnover, so all the Highlanders are up in the line. If it stays in play, Rico collects it, and there's no one between him and the try line. No one's catching him. But it didn't. It just rolled out of play, and then that was where and the Blues end up losing the game rather than potentially drawing it. But yeah, you've got to. There are a couple of bounces like that, but you've got to make your own luck.
Yeah, that was a killer moment, wasn't it, for the Blues? It was just seeing that pen shot out with that kick going through, and there was just no one within sight that was even going to touch Rico at all. He was gone for all money. He could have stopped, had a cup of tea on the 22, and then carried on and scored. It was that clear cut. But that's it. It's a bounce rugby ball, and you could say the same about the try, the Ty Warden score with the little kick through. That Pulu didn't quite manage to control. It's a rugby ball. I mean, another day that would have bounced straight up into his breadbasket and he would have been fine. He just got smashed and may have given away a penalty for not releasing the ball because he was a bit isolated. That would have been worst case scenario. But it's rugby ball. That what makes the game unpredictable and good. And another day, the Blues could have easily won that game. I didn't think I'd be saying that at the start of the match. I thought it would be close, but the lead changes were just phenomenal throughout that 80 minutes. It was crazy.
It was crazy, and it was only at the yellow card where the lead changed and then stayed. And you've got to say, I was predicting the Highlanders by 10 prior to this game. So the fact that the Blues were in this could easily have drawn, maybe even won the game. For me, as a Blues fan, is actually very positive. I think the Blues looked a lot better than I was expecting them to do. We've still got to see how they come up against a really powerful pack. So let's be honest, the Highlanders pack isn't that powerful. That's not their strength. Their strength is their backs and their broken field play. So we're going to see how the Blues cope with a strong pack. But otherwise, I've been encouraged by that from a Blues fan's point of view, even though they didn't get the win. I think it can be a positive season for them.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I think it's definitely a positive season for the Blues. They could have like this, so easily won that game and would be talking a completely different story right now. But they've got a lot of positive. I think the Highlanders pack is a pack that holds itself together. It's very rarely going to 100% dominate, but it's very rarely going to get completely smashed as well. It's just going to do the basic things well. It's going to hold itself still. It's going to get the ball. It's going to smash rucks, and it's going to get Aaron Smith clean ball, which, man, how good was it to see all that clean ball? That was something I took out of that game. It's like, ruck, ball's there. Ruck, ball's there. None of these bodies lying area. There's no stupid penalties. It was so good. Fast ball, clean ball, and that was straight into Aaron Smith's right in the zone. That's what he excels in. If he gets quick ball, you're in trouble. But yeah, definitely positives for the Blues. I think they're a lot better than I expected. A lot more high scoring game than I expected. But they could definitely take some positives. They need to play 80 minutes. They need to stay positive because they can't allow themselves to get too downtrodden about things going wrong. A bad call, turn into negative rugby, and that's what kills them. They need to, keep that pack holding up and keep playing positive stuff because they've got so much talent that they can definitely work with.
So where is the Scottish cannon when you're about to compliment the ref? Because I think part of the reason we got that quick ball, part of the reason it was a clean game, was the ref very early on made it very clear that only the first man was allowed to touch the ball. Everyone else, get off it. If the first time someone came in from the side, he blew it straight away and went in from the side. No more of that, folks, because I'll be giving away penalties all night. And both sides knew exactly where they stood. I didn't see any particular inconsistencies. To me, he was consistent and very clear that he was going to allow clean, quick ball. You weren't allowed to slow it down. You weren't allowed to lay over it unless you were the first man there and you could get your hands on it. I think the ref had a very good game. Yeah,
I agree with you. And the players, I think, adapted to a style very, very quickly and very well. A lot of rucks. There was probably only 2 defending players and the guy that made the tackle. Everyone else was gone out of there quick as. It's good because you don't see no stupid things. You often see refs like that make a stand and they just completely ignore him. But it was good to see that. I think overall he had a good game. The things he went to the TMO about. I mean, that Squire tackle on the sideline on Collins, I think it was. Some referees could have pulled that back and said, got someone in trouble. It's nothing. I think it was lenient, but when it come to things, he definitely showed his hand and had a pretty solid and consistent game. I'll give him that, definitely. Props up to the ref.
Yeah, and even that one with Dixon, he called him out and said, look, mate, you're a little bit late. You're on the line. Careful, don't do that again. Because, to be fair, Dixon, he did. He put his arms rather than his shoulder. He could have easily walked for that one if he'd looked for the cheap shot. But I say he just did enough to keep himself on the pitch there.
I think if they didn't score that try, it would have been a bit different. If something happened and the try got butchered, they didn't go over, then I think it could have gone back, possibly been a bit of a different result. But given the way it panned out, I think it was a fair representation of the incident. Yeah,
he was going to go back for penalty, but obviously, but not a yellow card. So no, it's all good. No. Now, one also comment that we should. 2 things we're going to cover off before we finish. I think Andre asked, gents, any comment on the fact that in all 3 games so far, close to 50 missed tackles in each, and both sides well below the 80% successful rate tonight. That's it wasn't great actually. Some of the tackling.
Yeah, I mean, could you put that down to early season? We've got to blame something on early season rust, don't we? I mean, it was a ridiculously good match. It was insanely good. I mean, you got to have something bad. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure to improve. Teams, specifically, I'd say in New Zealand, are probably focused on getting the tries, scoring first. Seems to be the way that they're playing at the moment. But I think overall, missed tackles, yes, there was quite a few. First up, missed tackles, but followed up the cover defense for both sides, helping out their buddies, getting in that second wave, that second line, cornering players onto the sideline was exceptional. A lot of line breaks were shut down very quickly. I mean, we could have had another 4 or 5 tries in that game quite easily, but cover defense was pretty good. So, one-on-one tackles, but you got to protect the try line is the most important thing, which, yes, they conceded a lot of tries, but still could have been a lot worse.
Yeah, and I think if teams are looking at these stats, here's where they're going to target Lee missed 4, Walden missed 3, Naholo missed 3. Now, both Walden and Naholo made 4, missed 3. And ain't a great ratio. So I think that's where you're going to want to go. You want to get some of your bigger guys or against Naholo, perhaps some of your quicker guys out in those channels, because that's where that's where you're going to get your line breaks to. And sure, they might get cut off, but you're going to get your front foot ball. You're going to get some distance in there. No one on the Blues gave up more than 2 missed tackles, so I'm not going to call anyone else out. But those are the those to me, I think, are the key offenders on the Highlanders side. And finally, the winners. Let's talk about the winners and how good they were. The Highlanders. As a Highlanders fan, how far are they going to go after that kind of a performance?
Oh, well, I'm not going to get my hopes too much up about this because it was the Blues. How good are they going to be compared to the Crusaders, the Hurricanes, player teams like that? It's still early, but I think I'm quite on track for them to be in the playoffs. Not one of your top sort of qualifying sides, but definitely on track. I mean, they're going to beat the Australian teams. And so I watched this game versus the Rebels and the Reds, where I see there's already a red card, which I've missed. Yes, the Reds have a red card. Go figure. I don't know how they have. So, yeah, they're going to go very well. I think they'll still going to go sit them third in the New Zealand Conference. Strong team. Smith's massive. Sopawanga and the back row. Still going the same thing. I think they're very solid. So, yeah, big season for the Highlanders, but I think they can definitely be a troublesome team. And depending where the draw goes for them later on, they always going to be that banana skin. Underestimate them at your peril.
Well, yes, and I did in my pre-season. So, yes, I'm impressed by the lesser names that stood up, especially in the backs tonight. That centre pairing, and I say the forward pack did well. I think I'm impressed by them, and yeah, maybe this is just the Highlanders yet again showing us what they do and behaving the same way. I thought they brought in some lesser names than previous years, but it looks like I was wrong. And any final points? Because I think we probably need to get into watching that Australia game and checking out that red card.
Not too much, really, actually. I just think it was a great game. Great game to start off the season for New Zealand. I think it's put Super Rugby back on the TV screens. A lot of people had very little interest. I even seen media things this week coming out saying Super Rugby starts this weekend. That's how bad it was. That's really how bad it is. Overall, great performance by the Highlanders. They kicked well, they chased well, they played well, and they improved and adapted throughout the game. Blues, promising signs, and I think we'll trip up a few sides throughout the season, and they're on the right track. Moving forward is always a positive for them, and 1 point off of my Super Brew pick, so don't think you're going to get ahead of me too easily on that one, eh? Good start. Pick them by 8.
You picked them by 8. I picked them by 10. So yes, you got the margin point this time, or at least the closer to it. I've gone for Rebels in the next game. I think we both did. So let's get over and watch that one. But before we do that, Steve, let people know where they can get hold of you and your wonderful rugby computer games and rugby real game coverage.
All sorts of rugby and gaming stuff. Cornflakes Cribs, where you can find me at Cornflakes Crib on Twitter. You can get involved there and have a bit of the banter. Had a few tweets flying out. It's good to be back in the rugby season, abusing everyone and calling out the good, bad, and ugly about the game, like Will getting his haircut again. So plenty to talk about in there. Go join in, have a chat, and see you all there. It's terrible. I mean, he's got dreadlocks and a little pig's tail. It's horrible.
Okay, I've got to go and see this. But of course, I'm Paul, the guy behind DrivingMaul. So at DrivingMaul on Twitter is where you can hit me up. I will be back tomorrow with live post-match reaction to France versus Italy, as well as Crusaders versus Chiefs, and back on Sunday for live post-match reaction to Scotland versus England. So catch all of those, as well as I say. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube and follow me on Twitter. My face is there for those watching the recording to subscribe, and there is a nice box with my latest video, so go and watch that as well. We're off to catch the Australia game, and see you all later.